The father and son nearly missed the word carved into the ground. Nature surrounded them as they headed to the forest. When they noticed "help" scrawled into the gravel road, they were confused. They assumed they'd be alone except for the animals. Their spines shivered. They didn't know something would transform their world. The two got out of the car and looked about after some deliberation. Only a few birds sang amid the silence. That area had no houses, farms, automobiles, or people. The voice came then. They traversed the thicket in the direction it came from. They then understood. The father collapsed. Many fathers envied Chris Gordon's relationship with Ryan. Since his son was a toddler, the dad had tried to be there. They talked and did things together. Chris wanted to be a man his son could admire and respect. There was more. He wanted to set an example and guide his son through life. He believed his main job as a father was to teach his son to be a good, trustworthy man. That included treating his son as an equal, listening to his thoughts, desires, and doubts, and sharing his knowledge and experience. Chris valued this for a reason. Chris grew up without a father figure. Dominic, Chris' father, had bad habits and neglected his family, so they divorced when he was a child. Chris last spoke to his father decades earlier. Dominic's absence had lasting effects on his personality. Chris felt lost as a child and young adult. He hung out with bad people and got into trouble. He was almost imprisoned for events he refused to discuss even years later. If you like my videos, don't forget to like or subscribe. Thanks in advance. After marrying Alice, his son's mother, everything changed. After cleaning up, his life was mostly trouble-free. He would be tested soon. Chris and Ryan liked hunting. They loved it. They loved spending a day in the forest looking for wild animals. When it happened, they were in Chris' car, on their way to their favorite spot in the forest. They were talking about what sort of animals they would find at that time of the year when suddenly, Chris stopped the car dead. Ryan looked at his dad first. Chris froze and stared at the road, alarmed. "Dad, what's wrong?" Chris said nothing. He indicated the road ahead. Ryan suspected an animal crossing the road had caught his dad's attention. Seeing it then. The sign was hastily scratched into the dirt in thin lines, like the maker was fleeing. Once closer, it was clear, someone had written "help" in the road. Father and son exited the car to assess the situation. Chris noticed that the lines on the dirt were recent, with no footprints or car tracks. That implies only one thing. They saw that message first. Who wrote it? Was it a troublemaker or a sick joke? During these questions, they heard something human-like. They heard human screams from the forest. She froze. Every minute was scarier. The kid asked his dad, "Maybe it's a fox." He knew that foxes in heat can shriek like human screams, but he wanted to leave as soon as possible. His father responded shortly. "Maybe." Chris said, "We must go there and verify." The pair headed toward the chilling sound in the forest. They tried to navigate the bushes while watching out for animals that could attack. Ryan followed his dad despite being terrified. The forest held what? Gordon was scared, too. He felt obligated to help the needy. After walking for a while, they saw a woman sitting deep in a small ravine in the woods. The slope prevented her from being reached. She likely fell in. Now what? They couldn't escape because the woman couldn't. Chris dialed 911 immediately. They arrived in minutes. Ropes pulled the woman out of the hollow. Chris recognized her from a closer distance. Chris recognized Amanda Ogle. Newspapers reported it. The mentally challenged woman had disappeared days earlier. She was healthy. How did she get into the forest? Her story. After rescuing Amanda, one team member called the police. She had escaped from her town outskirts care center. After 4 police officers exited a police car, a shocking discovery was made. The care center hadn't reported Amanda Ogle's disappearance to the press or the police. Her family did it. The care center, which should have been responsible for ensuring that Amanda was under the care of professionals and safe at all times, hadn't said a peep about it. Naturally, Amanda's family was outraged when they went to visit her one day and found that she wasn't there, while the care center's administration played dumb about the whole issue. What happened? One officer's statement perplexed the rescue team. That story was suspicious. Chris was perplexed. He approached an officer and offered to assist in solving the mystery. Amanda's true story still needed to be discovered. Only one thing could be done then. Amanda was questioned to see if she could help the investigation. After the rescue team made sure the girl was okay, the police introduced themselves. They tried to calm Amanda before asking questions, knowing she would be disoriented. They soon discovered something unsettling. Amanda was speechless. She never answered the officers' questions or comments. She heard and reacted to their words, but she seemed mute. More. Another unsettling detail made the situation an enigma these officers had never seen before. Amanda looked calm. She looked completely calm, like she had recovered from her accident in minutes. Why couldn't she speak? What could be wrong if not her trauma and shock? The police and rescue team were discussing these questions when a car parked nearby. Amanda's family. The rescue team called them immediately after Amanda was safe. They had been worried for days and furious at the care center's apparent negligence. They had no idea that the truth would be even darker. For now, nothing could be done. Amanda was unable to explain how she left the care center or ended up in that forest. Chris spoke to police. They thanked him for his help but advised him to stay out of it. Chris had a hunch when the police car left. He was suspicious. He talked to Amanda's family. They were furious and outraged about the care center's negligence and hoped the police would clear the matter in the following days. Chris kept thinking about how strange everything looked as he drove home with Ryan. He decided then. Chris told his wife about everything when father and son got home. I don't know what's going on, but it all sounds really fishy, he told her. I'll investigate. Chris' wife paused, as if debating whether to say what was on her mind. She spoke. Do what you must. Trust me. Be safe for Ryan and me. Chris promised to call the police if he felt threatened. They fell asleep slowly after going to bed. They speculated about Amanda Ogle's disappearance and Chris's involvement. Chris investigated the next morning. He searched online for the involved parties. He searched the care center for upper management. He recognized a name while reading the care center's directors' names. He shivered when he realized why. Despite its oddity, Chris recognized Salkeld, the care center director's surname. He pondered. Where have I heard that surname, he wondered. He realized. Local police chief shared surname. For years, he had been embroiled in scandals involving local police officials' alleged collusion with organized crime. More. These groups were accused of human trafficking. However, the police chief was not indicted. Is he related to the care center director? He searched their names online. He saw a Salkeld obituary online. He gasped when he realized the care center director and police chief were brothers. That became creepy. It could be too big for Chris to handle. After considering, he followed his wife's advice. He called the FBI and told them what he had seen in the past days, offering to help. The man on the line listened, asked a few more questions, thanked him for the information, and promised 2 agents would be in town by the end of the week. Chris sat stunned by how his life had changed in 2 days. Despite not knowing what lay ahead, he knew he had done the right thing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.